Thank you, Mike. I'm sorry, I almost forgot you. All right. Now, on the Democratic side, there are a number of people running. I have 8 here, and I know that Delegate Ebersol is here. Is there anyone else here running as a Democrat? Gentlemen, what's your name?
Mark Weaver.
Okay, Mark Weaver. All right. Well, since I do have it again, as it appears on the Maryland Board of Elections slate here, we will start with Eric Ebersol, currently serving in the House of Delegates.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. How are you doing this morning? This is great on a Saturday morning that people are out to talk about politics and see what's going on. First, I just got to tell you who I am real quick. I'm Eric Ebersol. I was born in 1958 at St. Agnes Hospital. Okay, I've lived in this part of the county for my entire life. All right, this is my community, and the people in this community are the people that I care about. I went into education, and I taught school for 35 years as a way of being a public servant, and at the same time as doing a job that I loved. And now, I've moved on to something else. In the last election, our great delegates, Jim Malone, Steve Du Bois, and even Liz Bobo in District 12, all resigned, and they left open a wide open field, and 3 really good people found their way into the delegation. Clarence Lamb, who's currently your delegate and wants to be your senator. Terry Hill, who, as you know, when you're in the delegation, we have 90 hard days in Annapolis, and sometimes people who have other jobs. Terry Hill's a small businesswoman. She holds down her own practice. She's actually treating patients this morning to try to keep her practice moving while she serves in the legislature. And then there's me. I had to give up my teaching job because it's too difficult to teach at the same time you have this job because of the schedule. But that's okay because I'm still an educator. Down in Annapolis, I'm educating people in the legislature about what works in education and what doesn't work in education. And I have classroom experience. When a policy comes along, people ask me, will this work in the classroom? Is this going to actually manifest itself the way we want to? People listen to me. And I'm glad for that because we need people like that. We need teachers in the legislature. We have someone running for Board of Ed who is a teacher and wants to be the Board of Ed. Matt Gresick's running for that right now. And this kind of voice in the legislature is critical. So what are the things that I advocate for in the legislature? Something that Delegate Lamb said. Time for instruction. We have to make sure that while we're making sure that students are reading ready and that they are ready as far as vision and screening and testing, that at the same time we leave time to instruct them in the school. That's our goal in the end, is to get them ready, but then to instruct them. So when new policies come along that impinge on instructional time, I'm always guarded. I'm like, let's take it easy here. Let's make sure we leave teachers time to do the things that they actually want to do, and that's teach. When it comes to education, we've all addressed it. It comes down to this, and it comes down to this with your library and everything in this community. Your zip code should not determine the quality of the education you receive. And that's happening a little bit in this part of the state, right here in this part of the county, that we're finding that recently, Lansdowne High School, that was promised a brand new renovation along with other schools, suddenly got left behind in a decision that should not have been made, I don't believe, without more careful consideration. And actually we do. We have legislation in to try to correct that. It's difficult for us at the state level. We send money. We can't always direct it. We're going to see if we can do that better. But in the end, I take very strong pains. Now, Lansdowne has a program going called a community school project, where you have a single person who responds to needs in the community. We're not just talking about hunger. We're not just talking about after-school work. We're talking about responding to all the kinds of needs. Dental work, what does this community need? It gives the school credibility, and the school becomes actually more effective because the community values it. Now, let's not say that this entire section of the county has been left behind. We have 3 new high schools, 3 new elementary schools, and 1 renovated one. One of them is a relay. One of them is Lansdowne Elementary School, right here over the hill. So attention is being paid, and that's partly due to the teamwork that you see amongst the current elected officials that are working here. And I'm very proud of that. How am I doing? All right. I serve on the Education Subcommittee, and you've heard some of the things that I feel we have to reduce testing. But I also serve on the Revenues Committee. This is the taxing committee in Ways and Means. Now, I will say that we're taxing people to death, but do you know that since I've been on the Revenues Committee, we have not seen one bill that has been introduced to raise taxes. Every bill has been to reduce taxes. We've given tax breaks to veteran pensions. We've given tax breaks to cybersecurity companies. We're trying to incentivize new businesses, to biotech companies, and even we've given tax breaks to people on school supplies. You know, there's a tax-free school time. We added backpacks into that. We are trying to make it so the common person doesn't need to pay as much taxes, and businesses as well. Businesses that are the future of Maryland. And we consider them, we do as many tax breaks as we can possibly afford. We work toward that. We've never passed or even pushed a bill through Revenue Subcommittee that has raised a single tax. And we are finding money. Ed Casemeyer has been a master at finding money for this district. We've put a new field in at CCBC, and he's instructed us how to do that. We have a new kitchen at the Arbutus Volunteer Fire Department. We have Lansdowne. And I'm sure that Delegate Lamb will seamlessly find out how to do that with us as well. So what I will say in the end is, I'm endorsed by the educators of Maryland. I'm endorsed by the Sierra Club. And I think that I have really begun to learn to do my work here in the legislature. I hope you'll let me carry on.
Thank you, Eric. And now we'd like to bring Mark Weaver to the podium.
Hello out there. Well, thanks a lot for the chance to speak. I really appreciate it. And it's good to see everybody. Like I say, it's Saturday morning. You could be watching cartoons, but here you are. Okay, my name is Mark Weaver, and I'm running for delegate in District 12. That's this district. And I've been in Baltimore County since 1981. Moved to Oella then with my wife, my young wife. And I've been in business since 1986. I'm a home improvement contractor. So I've always been a blue-collar worker. I'll be one of the few carpenters in the General Assembly, I imagine, if I am lucky enough to be elected. I had a son in '86, moved to Catonsville in '91, and lived there ever since. Also have a grandson. Just want to let you know that he's way cuter than any of your kids. Just saying, just saying. And since probably the year 2000, I saw what was happening on the national level, and like a lot of people, and some people this past year, I said, well, giving a little money and voting on election day is not quite enough. It's not doing it. Look what it's gotten us. At that time, George W. Bush. So I got more involved. I've worked on every presidential election. I've worked on gubernatorial elections. And around 2008, I discovered the Southwest Baltimore County Democratic Club. And I joined that, and I found my people. A room full of really idealistic people who were not cynical about the system, who wanted to make it better. And I served as president there, ringleader as I call it, for 7 years. And in that time, we played our part. Now, we didn't do it by ourselves, but we played our part in getting marriage equality, which, after all, is only fair. If you love someone, why can't you marry them? It just seems so obvious. We worked on that. We achieved that, along with, of course, many other Marylanders. We achieved, with other Marylanders, a ban on fracking, which I think time will show as states like Pennsylvania go through the troubles that they've been through, the pollution, methane in their water. It will stand the test of time as a good decision, and I'm glad that I did my small part and we did our part in achieving that. And I was happy in 2014 to watch this great field of candidates come up and fill the vacancies, not only in this district, but in 44B, which is right next door. And I was happy with who was elected, and I think they've done a good job. Now, of course, there's an opening. So some people suggested I run, and so I would like to serve on the inside, and so people like me can pester me, and I'll take my punishment, and I will work for you. Now, if you want to know why I'm running, okay, I've been a lifetime blue-collar worker. Sounds great. But what you find in that field, they talk about the gig economy. I've lived it my whole life. What you see is unchecked free market forces. Okay, greed is good. It's a good motivator. But without rules, without regulation, it can be very harmful. When like any other tool, like a saw or a hammer or a knife, it can build a house. It can also hurt you. It can kill you. When you're stuck in a low-wage job and you can't get out, you're feeling the jagged edge of that free market. The government needs to step in and establish a minimum wage. You know, because you're powerless sometimes as a worker. That's a good role for government. When you call up the drugstore and you find that your prescription has just tripled in price, like my wife just went through, she has a little eye drop.
Thank you.
Please
That
continue.
tripled in
Just
price.
finish your thought.
That's a role for government. And so those are the principles I want to upheld. I have my literature over here if you want to see more specifics. My name is Mark Weaver, and I'm running for delegate in District 12. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. And now that ends the people who are present today for House of Delegates. Please take a look. Be informed. The best voter is an informed voter. That's why we're doing this today. There are 5 people who are not here today for whatever reason, but please check into them as well. And now, is there anyone I think I've heard here who is running for Board of Education?
Yes.
And whoever that is, would you, well, this gentleman first, would you please come up and tell us who you are?
Be glad to. My name is Rick Young.
Rick Young, ladies and gentlemen.
So just give me a second so I can start my timer so you don't cheat me.
I'm not. Plenty of time, you guys are doing great.
So good morning, and I'd like to thank everyone for being here and taking the time to listen to what's going on in our communities today, and to thank the radio and TV people that are here. Again, my name is Rick Young, and I'm a candidate for Board of Education in District 1. If you don't realize this, District 1 runs from Baltimore Highlands all the way up to Dogwood Road, including Woodlawn High School and Dogwood Elementary School. Why should you vote for me was supposed to be the focus of this speech up here today. I'm a retired teacher who worked for 12 years for Baltimore County Public Schools from 1996 to 2008. I've taught in education for over 15 years. I'm also a retired 20-year Army veteran, and I've spent my entire life in public service, over 35 years, for very little pay. And obviously being a Board of Education member, very little pay. I think it's $100 a year. While I was in the Army, my last assignment, I was the Plans and Operations Senior NCO, General Staff, 44th Med Brigade, Fort Bragg. We were the command and control for over 1,200 units in the Army east of the Mississippi River. We're the only active duty medical command there was. And I'm accustomed to working in complex and multi-layer organizations and the politics that go along with that responsibility. Is BCPS complex? This is our public school adopted FY 2008 350-page budget. That to me still not is detailed enough to answer questions when people have specific questions. It's just generalized line item things that don't tell me the specifics that I need to know. I've read this. I've highlighted it. I've got dozens of questions I would like answered. I have many experiences that I feel qualify me for the Board of Education. Besides being a full-time social studies teacher at Woodlawn High School for 9 years. It's the toughest school in the county, without a doubt. And I never had a fight in my classroom. It's about how learning occurs in an orderly environment. If you don't have order, you'll never have learning. And that's very important. I worked for both the private sector as an instructor down here on Caton Avenue for Capital Learning when they were down there. I think they were called TESS, T-E-S-S-T, if you're not familiar with it. And I was also an adjunct instructor for CCBC, teaching AP Psychology to a class of high school students over at Seton Keogh. I lived in Arbutus, Westview Park, Halethorpe. I currently live now in Catonsville. I bought my first home in Arbutus while I was still in the Army. Spent the last 5 years commuting back and forth to Fort Bragg up to Baltimore because my kids were in Lansdowne High School. They were not going to leave Baltimore. They were going to graduate with their class. And one is a graduated valedictorian down at Lansdowne, is now a veterinarian and business owner out in Reisterstown Road. My other daughter has a master's degree, lives down in Chesapeake, Virginia, and is a project practice manager for her husband, who's a chiropractor. Lansdowne High School has the capability to produce some of the finest students in this state. However, there also has many students that have many needs that are not being addressed. I support wholeheartedly a new high school for Lansdowne. Every high school in our district has received numerous renovations in the past 20 years from the high schools. But yet, Kevin Cabinet said, we're going to get 3 new high schools in and around Towson. One's already been built. George Carver's already there. They want a new school at Towson. They want a new school at Delaney. And what they've done is they pitted communities against community on who's going to get a school. And damn it.
Say that again.
That's not fair. That's not equitable.
You finish up here?
Oh, I'm sorry. I looked at it wrong. And it's, Baltimore County deserves at least 1 new high school. And before I leave, and there was a whole lot of other things I could bring up, please just go to my website. It's Friends for Rick Young. I'll have all my positions, policies, and explanations and experience and things that I just could not get mentioned in 5 minutes. But I thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Young, and hopefully if you stick around a little later, people can actually talk to you about some of those things you just didn't get to.
Anywhere.
We're going to take questions later. Now there are, I think, maybe 2 other people here who are running for school board. And this gentleman here, if you would identify yourself, and sign in, please. And you are?
Pete Fitzpatrick.
Pete Fitzpatrick, ladies and gentlemen.
My name is Pete Fitzpatrick. I'm running for school board as a representative here in District 1, which, as Young said, goes all the way from the south end of the county up to Starwood Road. I'm a lifelong resident of the district. I've lived in Catonsville my whole life. I'm a product of Baltimore County Public Schools. I've got 2 kids in that school. I have 1 that's graduated. Fought through IEPs and 504s, and I'm going to tell you a little bit why I'm running, and I promise some people a good story. So I work as a flight nurse and a paramedic on a medevac helicopter. I work for DC Children's right now. And I promise a good story. So all good war stories, right? Like they don't start with, once upon a time. They start with, there it was, right? Yeah. So where we were, right? So we're coming. It was particularly a bad weather day, right? What rain's coming in, weather's coming in, and we had a really sick kid in the back. I say in the back because it was so sick we had extra crew. So I was sitting up front with the pilot, and we're coming back into DC, and the weather's getting worse and worse. So we're like, get on the instruments, and we go into the clouds, and we can't see anything. We're navigating by instruments, and we're going into Andrews Air Force Base, and as you go lower and lower into we're supposed to, the weather report is the ceiling, the cloud level's 1,000 feet, right? And we're at 1,000 feet, and I'm still looking out in the white clouds, right? So we're going lower, lower, lower. Finally get down around 600 feet, and we get out into the clouds, and we divert towards the hospital because we're not going to land at the Air Force Base because this kid's too sick. We're going, and we get over towards the hospital, and we're getting sucked in again. And at this point, we hear like airliners going missed approach at National, and I'm like, this is bad, this is bad, bad. And I look down, and I see the light on the top of the tower of the Veterans Administration Hospital right next to our hospital. I'm like, and I screamed. and I was like, I got it. We land right at the hospital, and everything works out. And the reason that's why I'm running is because we broke a cardinal rule of helicopter EMS that day, and that rule is the weather will not get better if you just keep going. Right? And that's, I think, where we are with Baltimore County Public Schools. The weather is not going to get better if we just keep going. So that's how I ended up in this. I started out in education advocacy about 5 years ago with the overcrowding and redistricting in Catonsville. I worked through all of that, helped bring some people together in a group because the different schools were kind of pulling against each other a little bit at that time. Felt like I was really good with that, and it worked since then. So I've got 3 big things that I want to see in our schools. I want to see more transparency in decisions. We got a $140 million contract that's coming up for a vote next week. We may or may not have a chance to public comment. There should have been more transparency, more but all along there. I want to see that our teachers are empowered. Again, I work as a nurse. When I worked at the bedside as a nurse, one thing I always knew what I needed to take care of my patient. All I needed was my leadership to listen to me when I told them, I need this to take care of the patient, and then to find a way to provide it for me. And the best care always happened when they did. So we can build our system from the classroom out, listening to the teacher, what they need, not overburdening them with things that they don't. We can have, you know, a better education for our dollar and for our system. And the last thing, and this is my probably most passionate thing, is an equitable education for everybody. Okay, I had a great life. I had great parents. They put me, you know, I was in, you know, here in Baltimore County schools, great schools. They sent me to college at UMBC. And I've had a great life. Not everybody gets those kinds of advantages. Not everybody is, you know, born in a place with those advantages or has that kind of support. So I don't want to see a system that's based on advantages. We have, you know, a planning system now that seems to be based on who has the best advocacy group going, right? And that's why we were told, oh, we can only get a renovation here in Lansdowne. And I was like, yeah, okay, well, if that's what we can get. And then we can put a new high school in Cleveland, and now we can put maybe a new high school in Towson. We need a system that's not based on advantage. We need a system that creates advantages for all our students. So again, my name is Pete Fitzpatrick. I am a candidate for Board of Education here in District 1. Like us on Facebook. My campaign manager says, always say that. So. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzpatrick. And we have one more person. Here we are for Board of Ed. I also still have Central Committee.
Hi, my name is Matt Gresick. I'm running for Baltimore County Board of Education in District 1. I am currently a public school teacher in Howard County. But I live in Baltimore County, and that's how I can do both at the same time, and that's what I plan to do. I became a teacher to make a difference in the lives of kids, and I hope to make a difference in a bigger way on the Board of Education. My experience is vast. I started off teaching, student teaching inner city school. I went across the pond to England and taught parochial school there. I have been teaching for over 15 years, public school, social studies, middle school, all core areas in high school. I have experience with professional development liaison with Towson University, as well as my bachelor's in secondary education, my master's in curriculum instruction from McDaniel College. The three things I want to focus on are teacher empowerment, since I'm a teacher, building trust and transparency, and finally the issue with technology. First off, with teacher empowerment, I feel that like Pete, we need to have teachers that feel empowered in their jobs. We are losing teachers in the workforce right now because of that lack of empowerment. I feel there's a lot of initiatives. I like to call it initiative fatigue, as well as WMD's weapons of mass distraction that come into play that keep teachers from actually engaging kids in a real and meaningful way. The second thing is about trust and transparency, and that has to go with equity piece as well. Your zip code should not determine the quality of your school. However, you should also keep in mind we need to be transparent in all of our allocations of resources so that that equity comes into play. The third is that technology piece, which is so debatable right now in Baltimore County Public Schools. And I want to build technology innovators and make sure that we do not have technology addicts. As a current public school teacher, I see a lot of my students addicted to their cell phones. And so we have to constantly say, okay, this is getting in the way of your success, let's put it up. But I also don't want to hamstring those teachers from reaching kids that benefit from that technology. For instance, parents have talked to me about their kids being dyslexic or having autism, and they actually benefit from that technology. So I do not want to hamstring teachers in that way. I also want to invite, this is a nonpartisan position, I also want to invite those Republicans, if they would like to invite me to any of their clubs or meetings, I'm being willing to talk to them, because all of our kids go to our public schools, and as you can see, I can take a beating. So I'm willing to come and talk to anybody. But finally, let's talk about Lansdowne High School. I was the first candidate who filed. For 4 months, I've been caring about Lansdowne High School and equitable distribution of funds for new schools. I was there at the board meeting, the first board meeting that talked about the renovation. I was there at the meeting at Lansdowne High School, talked about the renovation. I was there at that final meeting where Councilman Quirk led the charge with Delegate Ebersol there, as well leading the charge for Lansdowne High School. At one of those meetings at Lansdowne High School, I excused myself, I went to the bathroom, and in the bathroom, I decided to try the water. In trying the water, let's just say the word grit is a great way to describe the people of Lansdowne. However, it should not describe the water that their kids drink. So in saying that, I plan to fight for this area. I also plan to fight for this entire district as far as we need to do the best by all our kids. Thank you.